For our second lesson today, we're looking at food and nutrition, in particular the labels that are on food packaging. This is something that's specifically mentioned in the standard maths syllabus, and we need to be able to sort of understand that. As mentioned in the previous lesson, there is this conversion that we have to do between calories, which is quite commonly used when referring to food, and kilojoules, which is the international system unit that we would generally use. And that conversion is just here. I'll highlight it, but yeah, that 1 calorie equals 4.184 kilojoules. Obviously, this is sort of built around, sort of similar to talking about the blood alcohol stuff that we talked about in algebra, around making sort of sensible life choices, healthy life choices, that sort of thing. So any excess energy you eat will end up being stored. It's part of, I guess, initially a biological trait which allowed us to get by when food was scarce in supply. We could burn the energy that we had stored, like we've got our own little batteries. But of course, in the modern world, where particularly in the first world, where food is plentiful, this can result in people being overweight, essentially too much storage, and that can have its own negative effects for health. As a result of that, food manufacturers are required to label energy content of their products. There are usually three different ways, and usually 2 on any given packet. Most commonly, I think all of them are required to do the amount per 100 grams, so the amount of energy, protein, fat, carbohydrates, and you'll see there's a nice little example nutritional box here with the per 100 gram area just there. As well as that, generally there'll be the per packet if it's a single serving kind of packet, or they'll work out per serving, which is just written there. And if they're going to do that, the serving size and the number of servings per packet has to be shown on the label as well. So from that, we can look at how much salt, sugar, all those sort of things that are involved. Just bear in mind, when you see sodium on a label, you can take sodium to mean salt. So if you're asked how much salt's in a food and it doesn't actually say salt on the label but says sodium, you can take the sodium to be salt. So just looking at this particular food label, what's the intended serving size of the product? Well, that's written right there on the label, which is now in purple highlighter as 33 grams. So in other words, when we look at the per serving size, if we're having a serving of 33 grams, then that'll be accurate. But if we're having a larger or smaller serving than 33 grams, we'd need to adjust. The next question is how many servings are there in a packet, and that's written just above where it says servings per package, and that's 8. Now the next question is the average daily energy requirement for an 18-year-old female is 10,000 kilojoules. How many complete packets would satisfy an 18-year-old female's energy requirement? So what we want to know is if we take that 10,000 kilojoules they've got to have in the day and divide it by the number of kilojoules in this packet. Well, how many kilojoules are in this packet? Unfortunately, it doesn't actually say. So we might go over here and first work out how many kilojoules per packet. So given that there's a serving size of 33 grams and there's 8 servings in the packet, what we can do is we can take the kilojoules per serving, which is 550, and I'll just put a little line there to separate this off, and multiply that by how many servings there are in the packet, which in this case is 8. And that'll give us the amount of kilojoules per packet. So if we put that into our calculator, we got 550 times by 8, and that's 4,400 kilojoules in the packet. So moving on from that, if we take the 10,000 kilojoules in the day and divide it by those 4,400 that are in the packet, that'll tell us how many packets essentially per day that you'd eat to get, if you're getting all of your energy from just this one packet of, is it cereal or whatever it is that we've been given. So we take our 10,000 and divide that by 4,400. We end up with 2.3 packets per day. obviously, what is the, and it doesn't actually say on there what type of food we're talking about here, but nonetheless, what could be a problem with eating only this product over a 24-hour period? I'm going to say something along the lines of boredom, and as well as that, other nutritional requirements. So just because this might give you all the energy you need in a day, it might not give you all of the nutrition that you need in a day across a balanced diet. So you might be missing out on certain other things. The other thing you might actually consider is getting... Sorry for the interruption there, the phone rang. So the other thing I was going to say is obviously getting too much of other what do we say there? Items. I'll say items. I can't think of a better word at the moment. And so, for example, salt. Maybe if this is high in salt, by the time I get the energy requirements from this one thing, I might have gone over my salt requirements for 3 days. So, obviously a balanced diet generally works a little bit better. What is an advantage of having details per 100 grams? I think I would put that down to one word: comparison. If everything's given per 100 grams, you can compare two foods that are not alike to determine which is the best to use. Which food is the best for certain nutritional information. So I can compare having toast with some Vegemite on it to having a bowl of cereal. I can compare things that aren't necessarily the same as long as I'm working on the per 100 grams. That was a bit confusing there. Sorry about that. Then we've got this example where Adam has 2 slices of bread, half a tin of spaghetti and 300 ml of super juice for his breakfast, and we want to know some information about that. So the first is, how many kilojoules did he consume for breakfast? Now, with the Heinz spaghetti, half a can is the serving size, so the information... I'll just move that back out of the road. The information about serving size, I don't need to do any calculation, and if we look at the rye bread, 2 slices is what he had, and 2 slices is the serving size here too. So I can go on the amount per serving for those two. But if I go down to the fruit juice is per 100 mils or a serving size of 200 mils. So I might have to use the per 100 mils and just multiply everything in there by 3. So to look at this, so for the kilojoules for the spaghetti, well, that's nice and easy. That's going to be half a can, and the kilojoules written there is 510, so we'll put that down. For our a couple of slices of bread, once again, that is just a normal serving, and it says there's 700 kilojoules in the bread. Okay, and finally we've got the juice. So the juice, I have to take what we have for 100 mils, which is 248, and I have to multiply that by 3 because that's per 100 grams. So 248 by 3. Sorry, that's a bit blurry there. I might just rewrite that out there. And that's going to equal 248 times by 3 is 744. And if I total those up, that'll give me the kilojoules for the whole of the breakfast. So 510 plus 700, and I've got my previous answer in there, so 1954. The recommended intake for salt is less than 5 grams. What percentage of Adam's daily salt intake had he had at breakfast? So once again, we can look at each of those items separately. So for the spaghetti, for the serving size, he had 0.7 of a gram. For the bread, he had 335 milligrams. So if we're in grams, we'll keep it in grams. So that's going to be 0.335. And then finally for the juice, once again, we're going to have to take the per 100 and times it by 3. So once again, for sodium there, it's 8 milligrams. 8 milligrams. So if we take 8 milligrams and multiply that by 3, that's going to be 24 milligrams. So that's going to be 0.024. So if we add all those up together, we're going to end up with 1.059 grams here. And if we then express as a percentage, so the percentage is just going to be what we're comparing over the total amount we're allowed times by 100. So 1.059, I won't use that, I'll use this, divided by 5 times by 100 will give me a percentage. It should be around about 20%, 21.18%. Okay, and then finally we've got the recommended daily intake of sugar is less than 55 grams, and we'd use the same process there. I'd like you to have a go at that one yourself and come up with an answer there. And then there's those questions there to do in exercise 4D. Have a hook into those. And that'll be period 2, and I will see you guys tomorrow for... What are we doing next? We're doing... energy expended in activities. So looking into different sports and how we burn the energy that we consume by doing activities. See you then.